Do you want to know what the Shedeur Sanders draft slide really means? Because a lot of this sports shit and analysis really just comes down to reading between the lines and figuring out what this league is trying to tell us. And ultimately, the decision makers in the NFL decided that they are not going to put up or condone the behavior of cocky quarterbacks they don't view as humble, that they don't view as grateful. And I've defended Shedeur at every step of the way because it comes with being a black quarterback is having swag that you haven't seen from dudes like Peyton Manning or Eli Manning, who seem to continue to have their fingertips all over that New York Giants operation. The pick of Jaxson Dart tells you something that was my suspicion from the beginning, that John Mara is not going to draft a black quarterback. I've been saying that for years, especially not to replace Eli, which is why you see a history of them taking quarterbacks that quite frankly make zero sense in the first round. This Jaxson Dart move, kid from Utah, has Zach Wilson written all over it to me. You've got a guy who's coming from a small town who then goes to Mississippi and is now gonna apparently thrive in New York City. This feels like one big move to remind players to stay in line and not get too confident about their abilities, what they could bring to a franchise. And quite frankly, the NFL has a problem with dudes who have other options outside of playing football. Shedeur Sanders could go and do a myriad of things if he wanted, but the NFL is used to guys who placate to them, who need their resources, who have the NFL draft and playing football as the biggest thing in their life. And with Shedeur, the reality is as cocky or as not cocky as he could have been throughout the draft process, the kid does not need the NFL, and the NFL has a problem with that. They understand that if they reward Shedeur Sanders with a high draft pick, that this might become the new norm. This could be something where now these black quarterbacks are outspoken and in ways that we're not used to seeing traditionally. And so to me, whether this was a situation where in NFL circles, it just rubbed people the wrong way and there just wasn't one person who's willing to stand up and take him in the first round. But to me, it feels like this was just like a rally to make sure that the kid stays in his place and that this doesn't become a long-term issue. I don't want to hear that Shedeur isn't special or that his play isn't good enough for the first round. How many guys have we seen at the quarterback position come from small, non-football schools who throw half as good of a ball as Shedeur, who did not fall out of the first round? Of course, I go to Daniel Jones. Of course, I go recently to Zach Wilson, JJ McCarthy. These are all players who are subpar to Shedeur, who do not come from situations where they are one of the top sacked players for years in college, are still resilient and are still going to thrive in spite of. Jaxson is not a quiet guy. He has a lot of confidence. Backwards hat guy, as Colin Cowherd would say. I mean, he's not an Eli Manning prototype like you got with Daniel Jones. And the Sanders family, they are in a position of major uncomfortability where they cannot control where he goes. Everything with them is about PR, how things look, and this is something that is going to be very uncomfortable for them. And there's no doubt that this is the top storyline from the draft, but also that this will be a major storyline for whoever drafts him. They are going to poke and prod Shedeur and try to get him to speak on the fall of the first round. Aaron Rodgers rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and still went in the first round to a non-quarterback needy team. So don't sit here and tell me that Shedeur's ability is the reason that he fell. There are now reports and leaks, of course, coming out saying that he fell because of his talent. Because I'm old enough to remember Kenny Pickett getting picked in the top 20 of the NFL draft. And how did that work out for Pittsburgh? So I am going to continue to support Shedeur every step of the way, because the black quarterbacks that have come into this league have done it their own way, and it is now the status quo. And so if Shedeur has any modicum of success, any bit of success, it will be the NFL's biggest fear. They do not want to be the NBA, where players are in control and are outspoken and ultimately have leverage over the shield. Because what you don't see in the NFL is one of the top guys speaking up about the system in the same way that you do in the NBA. LeBron James is very vocal about what goes on both in and outside of the NBA. Are so many of the top guys, and that league feels like they are beholden to those players. And the NFL, they believe that it's the shield over everything, and we've got to create a consensus and a way of life that does not threaten their ability to control every aspect of players who are quote unquote needy for them. This is probably why there's a lot of people in the league office who are unhappy with college's NIL money. That's why guys like Dabo Sweeney are not happy with NIL money, because they're okay with themselves getting paid top dollar. But God forbid the player who puts his body on the line, his body, his mind, his future, his social and economic capital on the line every Saturday. God forbid they have options. God forbid they don't need the NFL. So I'm coming in hot on this one, and I'm not holding back. And I will continue to see how this unfolds. And I will continue to absolutely provide critiques that cannot go unsaid. As always, appreciate you stopping by. We are going to continue covering the draft as well as the NBA playoffs, which are so fun. Please keep a lookout for a few videos, potentially 2 or 3 coming per day during this week and weekend, just based off of the way that the calendar falls. I cannot wait to continue chatting about this. And thanks again. I will see you next time.